Floridians know the cost of hurricane destruction. Last season, we got lucky. But luck doesn't protect your home. Fortunately, Storm Smart has dependable custom hurricane protection products. Hurricane screens, accordion shutters, aluminum roll-down shutters, flood mitigation systems. Because protected beats lucky every time. Be safe, be smart, be Storm Smart.
Streaming from the Tampa Bay 28 Weather Center in Studio A, this is Dennis Phillips Live. Brought to you by Storm Smart. Protect every opening of your home.
How you doing, everybody? Tuesday night edition of Dennis Phillips Live here with Kyle Berger. We are going to be talking Rays baseball coming up in a couple of minutes. He's just kind of hanging out right now. We're going to start with some weather. Marc Topkin from Tampa Bay Times, pretty much the guy who has been
since they're the Devil Rays back when they very first started, he's been the guy to cover the team the entire time.
Yeah,
so he knows everything.
He does. So we're going to be here to answer your questions. If you're watching on the spot, appreciate it. By the way, the Bolts are playing tonight.
It's on the HBO
but they're
TNT.
on HBO TNT.
Yeah.
So
7:30 start.
Yeah, so it starts right now, but you're not able to watch them on the spot tonight. Occasionally, we let the other guys take the games, but as you all know, you may have heard this a time or two, we are the official broadcast home of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that is one of those things this year. So if you are watching on the spot, and if you're interested in Rays baseball, Mark and Kyle, these are the guys, and you know, myself a little bit as well. I've been able to dabble from time to time in Rays baseball lore. And we will be here to answer your questions. Mark will be in about 5 or 6 minutes. Let's do some lows here. So if you're watching on TV, again, if you have a question for Kyle or a question for Mark, you can go ahead and post it on my Facebook page. If you don't and you just want to hang back. And so I was at the Valspar over the week. I was there pretty much every day. And it really struck me because a lot of people, usually when you go out in public, like, oh, I watch you on TV or I follow you on Facebook, all right? But I cannot tell you how many people are just yelling, DPL or DP. I'm like, hey, so there's actually somebody out there watching, which is a plus.
Or they just really want a Dr. Pepper.
You know, this is true, yeah. So that's going on the spot right now. But if you have questions for Kyle or for Mark, Mark will get here in about 6 or 7 minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about that. Mary, how you doing? Good to see you. We've got Eric. Nice to see you as well. Anna Marie, as always. Stephen in Clearwater. And Galen in Countryside. Kim, nice to see you. So if you're on TV, no, we are not looking through the TV, although I know there are some people who believe we can do that. I've been accused of that many a time. But they are following along on social and asking your questions. So let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of weather because we actually have some rain out there. But before we get into the rain, I do want to start out with this map because I think this probably freaked some people out earlier on today. So I was scrolling through my Facebook page and I saw the Hurricane Center post this map. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Did I miss something? Do we have a hurricane coming? And then I looked closely and I saw that that was just the graphic from Hurricane Milton. Because what the NHC has done is they've made some changes this year, some updates as they often do, one of which this year is inland warnings. Inland, they're really working on trying to develop a way to better get information out to y'all if you live inland. If you're not on the coast, you still have impacts. And that's something that that they're working on. So that's what they did today. They posted what Milton would have looked like with the warnings back in a couple of years ago. This is not a storm, but honestly, it caught my attention too. For just a split second, I'm like, oh my heavens, what did I do? Our biggest issue, obviously, is the drought. We are still in a drought. We're going to continue to be in a drought, even though we do have some rain out there. And by the way, apparently the watering restrictions were increased even more. We ran the story earlier on in the newscast that there will be, coming up in a couple of days, you're down to 1 day a week watering, and there will be fines issued without any warnings at all. And I'm going to be honest, all right? So several years ago, my sprinkler, we were in, because in the spring, we are often in a drought, we often have water restrictions. My sprinkler broke, and it turned on when it wasn't supposed to, and it stayed on, right? So about 3:30 in the morning, my Ring doorbell is going off, and I go outside, and they left me a ticket on my door for watering, and it was a $158 ticket. There was no warning. It was like, no, that's the weather guy. If he's watering, he should know better, so I'm going to just give him a ticket, and he did. In fact, that, ironically enough, it's the only ticket I've ever had in my life.
No speeding.
No speeding tickets.
No, wow.
Nope, never did. But I got a watering ticket for...
From the city, I guess?
It was from Pinellas County.
Oh, the county comes around. Okay.
Yeah, some dudes driving around at 3:30 in the morning. Oh, look, the water's on. But I deserved it. I broke the law. You know what? If you do the crime, you got to do the time. Yeah. So there it was. Hey, we've got Deanna in Detroit here. How you doing? Good to see you. All right, so let's get back to the rain that's going on. There are some showers out there. And there they are, moving into Polk County. Closer look right there. There they are. And a little bit of lightning with it, and that's the only concern with any of these is, anytime you get, the motion's kind of like that down to the east-southeast, but anytime you get lightning in a drought situation, there's always the possibility that, you could see a brush fire come out of this. So there have been a few lightning strikes. You can kind of see right there. And these are all moving down to the east-southeast. And I actually think we're going to see more tomorrow. Temperatures right now mostly in the mid to upper 70s. Highs today, we hit the mid to upper 80s inland, upper 70s along the coast. Mid-70s right now, 74 degrees with winds coming in out of the west off the Gulf at 10 miles an hour. There's our feeding Tampa Bay cam. 79 the high is exactly where we're supposed to be. The morning low dropped down to 65. So we were talking about this yesterday. Once we hit mid to late March, our fronts have a tendency to slow down and eventually stall out. And then next month, they don't make it to our area, they make it to Gainesville. And then the end of next month, they make it into Tallahassee. So this is about as far south as a front will go, although we actually might see one on Sunday going a little bit farther south, dropping our temperatures a bit. But the good news out of this, there's some rain out there. Not for most of us, but for some of us. And by 10 o'clock, they're gone. Tomorrow, we see it again south of I-4. You can kind of see 3:30, 4 o'clock. And there's a line. Pretty decent area, potentially, for some more showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. And then we heat up. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it will be mostly sunny, and it will be hot with very little chance of rain. Front comes through on Sunday, we drop down. So we go from the upper 80s to the upper 70s. So we're going to have 1 day where we cool off a little bit, and then we're right back in the mid-80s. So a lot of people have asked me, when can we plant our plants? When can we do our garden? I did mine today. So I'm giving it a thumbs up. You are okay to plant. We are not going to see another freeze. But Teresa, you are right. The pollen count has been off the charts, no doubt. So there's the rain chances tomorrow and again on Thursday. Friday and Saturday, we clear out. A weak front comes in on Sunday. There's your forecast tonight. Partly cloudy, a few evening showers. Tomorrow it'll be a warm one again with some afternoon and evening storms, especially south of I-4. The beach, it's still spring break for some folks, right?
Nice.
I know Pasco's next week as well. Low to mid-70s for highs. Really nice day at the beach. There's the 7-day. 82 tomorrow, 85 on Thursday. Friday and Saturday, dry, hot, up near 90. And then we see a front come in on Sunday. We cool off for 1 day, and then we are right back in it early next week. So there it is, folks. A lot of folks might want to know what the weather's going to be like in St. Louis on Thursday because the Rays have their home opener, not their home opener, their season opener against the Cardinals And we will be back in 90 seconds to field your questions and to talk to Marc Topkin, who's kind of the OG of Rays baseball coverage from back in the day. So bring your questions, and we'll be talking all about Rays baseball coming up in 90 seconds as DPL continues. Okay, we are in a break. Here we go. And let me get Marc in here. Marc, you there?
I'm here.
All right. All right.
I don't see you, but I just see your name on the screen. Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to see me. I mean, I can actually, you won't see me. You'll kind of, oh, hold on, I hit the wrong thing. Stand by. All right, there you go.
Is there anywhere for me to plug in, or you only have one plug?
Oh, look right down here.
Is there?
Is there any place to plug in? Next to it? Yeah, try that.
I can at least hear.
All right, we have 45 seconds from this break. Linda says I'm supposed to ban. Yeah, I know the volume's kind of low. Hold on, let me see if I can raise Marc's volume. All right. How about now, Marc? Give me another mic check.
Yes, test.
Hey,
I think that's good. Can you guys hear that good? I think you can. He sounds good to me. All right. I got to find this golden arrow person. Oh, yeah, golden arrow. I mean, I'm going to... Are we back? And we're back in 15 seconds. But I'm going to ban him on live. I don't want to waste a ban just on stream. I want to ban him on on broadcast TV. All right, we are back in 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back to Dennis Phillips Live. We have to ban someone off streaming. I wanted to do it on broadcast because it's way more fun. Golden Arrow, you are gone, banned from all streams, and you are banned to the afterlife as well. So there you go. Volume is good now. Marc Topkin, how you doing?
Doing good. It's been a long spring training that wrapped up today. Headed out to St. Louis in the morning, and then the Rays open the season on Thursday.
I was just going to check the forecast. So Kyle, you got to see Marc out there when you're covering the games, yes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be good to see him at Tropicana Field this season.
Yes.
How's that shaping up? What have you been hearing?
It's looking good. Kevin Cash and a bunch of the players went over there Sunday and Monday morning, and they tested the turf. They tested the roof. They hit fly balls. They made them it's had a kind of cool drill. They made them keep their eyes down on the ground. They hit a fly ball. They had to look up, find it, and then go catch it.
Yeah.
But pretty good reviews. They all seem to think it's in pretty good shape. Obviously the team's still got a little extra time. They asked to open on the road. MLB said sure, and then sent them to 3 really cold weather cities. That was awesome, even though it's going to be hotter. Apparently you'll have this officially, but it's going to be hotter in St. Louis Thursday than it is here, I believe.
I was literally just wondering if I needed to put on my glasses to see if I'm reading this wrong, because it looks like 91 the high on Thursday. That's crazy.
And then look at the high for Friday. It's 40 degrees cooler.
Yeah. See, we complain about our weather. We ain't going to deal with that. It's going to go from 90 to 50. So how do you pack for that, Marc?
If you want to know the honest truth, and maybe somebody important at Southwest is listening right now, I'm literally like putting things in one by one. I've got one of those little scales here and trying to stay at the weight limit. But yeah, it's tricky. It's an 11-day trip because it's St. Louis, Milwaukee, and then Minnesota. So
I got a question for you. So, and then we'll get into the team. But
double wears on the jeans there. I'll just get and say public.
A lot of folks are interested in the condition of the Trop. So, I mean, when you went in and looked at it, and you went in as well, right?
I have not been in.
Oh, you're not seeing it yet. So how does it look? Does it look about the same? Is there any moisture issue? I mean, I know some people are asking about whether there was any kind of a mold issue. I mean, what are you hearing?
Yeah, in December, the city, St. Pete, did a media tour, and they answered a lot of questions there, and that was brought up a number of times. And apparently there's all kinds of specialists in that field. They hired like 3 of them, and they said they were very confident that any mold issues and things like that were resolved. And don't forget, there was no roof on that place for about a year, so a lot of that stuff would have been able to air out. It wasn't like it was sealed, in a basement somewhere, getting all moldy and green water and things like that. But they seem to be pretty confident that was in good shape. They had to replace pretty much everything on the ground level: the field, the outfield walls, the padding. some of the seats, the clubhouses, the lockers, things like that, the carpeting, wherever that was. And they used it as a chance to do some refreshing too. They did upgraded the suites. They expanded the scoreboard. There's a new sound system. So it's looked good. They had a second media tour in mid-February. John Romano from our paper went to that. I was down in Port Charlotte, but the pictures Dirk Schad, our photographer, had it looks like a ballpark again. And I think that was the big thing is, you think of what it looked like, and you guys had some of that incredible video the night of the storm, and to what it looks like now, that it seems like a ballpark again. I mean, the roof, it's a science thing. The roof isn't quite all white yet. It is manufactured tan and it bleaches white. So there's still some tan spots in there on the inside. If you drive by on the outside, it's fine, which makes sense. The sun's obviously going to fade it right from the outside in, but still a few tan spots, which one of the players was saying, oh, it's cool with this new roof. You can see the fly ball better. It's like, it's not actually going to stay that way there, but it'll look a little different on April 6th, probably, unless they get a lot of sun between now and then.
Kevin Kiermaier always joked the dirty white ball on a dirty white roof was hard to follow. But Mark, what are the biggest advantages now for the Rays moving from the heat and humidity from Steinbrenner to back in the climate-controlled stadium?
Well, Kyle, that's absolutely one of them, is just not being out in the heat and the humidity. And, Dennis, from a scientific standpoint, you may have a different perspective, but it seemed like that was the bigger issue than the rain last year. They didn't have any games rained out. They had 8 or 9 delayed by rain, but the heat and the humidity in the afternoon, the threat of lightning, the threat of rain, where they couldn't do pregame work, I think all those were factors that interrupted things for them, and to get back to the air conditioning. And then just the bigger dimensions. Rays baseball typically has been pitching and defense and get what offense they can. And we saw them adapt a little bit to Steinbrenner Field last year, hit a lot of home runs, but they also gave up a lot of home runs. So it'll be interesting to see if it goes back to more of a standard kind of Rays baseball thing. I do think, in talking to people I have found both with the Rays and around the game, just other writers, media people with other teams, whatever love there was for the Trop, or lukewarm love there was for the Trop before, now everyone's going to love the Trop. People are just, it's the greatest thing in the history of baseball stadiums.
And it's crazy because, remember, prior to going to Steinbrenner, people are like, yes, outdoor baseball. I've been waiting my whole life for this to happen.
It was great in April and early May.
Yeah.
Did you keep your poncho from the first ever rainout?
Yeah, I have it, right? And that was the day it didn't actually rain. They handed out the ponchos for the first rain delay, but it never actually rained. So that was a cool little footnote in Rays history there. Kind of like the day they let the fireworks off in the Trop one year and didn't realize the smoke was going to linger and lost the game because they lost the ball in the smoke. There's all kinds of things like that.
Well, so we've talked a lot about the Trop. When we come back after this break, let's talk about the team. There's a lot of new faces. There's a lot of missing faces, and maybe touch a little bit on new ownership. What your initial impressions on that as well? That's coming up with Marc Topkin and Kyle Berger on Dennis Phillips Live. Back in 90 seconds. All right, that's awesome. So yeah, let's talk. What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the team, or do we want to talk about ownership? What do you want to talk about, Mark?
Let's do the ownership. We'll kind of segue ownership, Trop, ownership, new stadium, team. That probably works the best, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds good. We're still on streaming right now. What is your so I've been talking a good bit with Rick Vaughn, obviously RV, and his take was, to me, is a lot of people, I think, expected really quick changes with a new ownership, and obviously that hasn't happened. I don't even know if that's actually in the cards. Well, I mean, what do you think?
10 seconds.
Oh, we have 10 seconds?
Or no, is it?
I know. No, we're 30. Keep going.
30.
We're good, buddy.
It seemed like, I agree. I thought there would be some things, maybe whether that was like a splashy free agent signing or something, but it seems like that they've come in and their focus is so much on the stadium that they're just kind of let's kind of let this thing run. And they brought in a few of their own people, and then probably, I assume, are assessing people as they go, and whether that's one season, a couple seasons, and then if they need to make some changes. But it did seem, I think there was concern, like there would be any takeover, right? Are they going to come in and fire a bunch of people? Are they going to change the way we do things?
All right, Mark, we're back in 3, 2. How you doing, everybody? This is kind of an interesting dynamic because I've been talking to Marc live on our streaming, but at the same time, we got to come out of our commercial breaks hot. And we're going to get into this because we only have about 10 more minutes left with Marc. Got to get finished packing for his trip to St. Louis at 91 degrees. So we were talking about ownership, and I think that was one of the big questions, right? You know, a lot of people wondered what kind of a splash might happen. And so far, what we've really been seeing is more of our bigger name players, that a lot of them have been shipped off elsewhere. So, I mean, are you sensing any animosity, not animosity, but maybe just people saying what gives, or do you think this is just part of the process?
Well, I think, you know, to the new ownership's credit or in their defense, I guess, depending on how you frame it, you know, they said at that very first press conference, their number one priority was going to be trying to get this new stadium built in Tampa. And they've kind of stuck to that, right? That's where most of their energy seems to be focused and dedicated, and you know, whatever progress they've made, and obviously we could debate the merits of it probably on a much longer show at another time. But you know, to have the governor supporting them has been a big change. That hadn't happened in the previous ownership, things like that. So I do think that's been their focus. You know, personally, my own opinion, I thought maybe they would come in and sign a big name free agent or do something like that to kind of, you know, win back some fans or whatever. You had 2 losing seasons in a row. People got spoiled, right? They made the playoffs 5 straight years. Mm-hmm. So two losing seasons in a row, you know, but they also have raved incessantly about Eric Neander being the best baseball operations person in the business. And, you know, Ken Babby at the press conference said, "In Kevin and Eric, we trust." And speaking of Kevin Cash also. And I think they're willing to let Eric kind of just continue doing things as they've been doing them, with the idea that if they get this new stadium, they're going to get a lot more revenue. They're going to be able to have a bigger payroll and operate kind of like the other teams do, and not have to constantly be, you know, cycling players in and out.
Hey, quickly, 2 questions about that, and then we got to hit another break, and then we'll talk about the team. But about the stadium, I mean, what is the latest on that? And I'm curious, when do we think we'll know definitively when that's actually going to or not going to happen?
Yeah, it sounds like from some of the reporting our news site has done, and I'm sure others in the market as well, but that the vote's going to get pushed back to mid-April or so. The owners have been pushing for an early April vote. They're on a tight schedule. If you want to build it and open it by 29, and Dennis, you know better than anyone, you lose a lot of rain days to construction in the summer here, or a lot of construction days to rain, excuse me. And you know, they need to get this thing going. They need to be probably in the ground 3rd quarter, 4th quarter of this year to get it ready. So they're pushing for an earlier vote, but there have been some questions, obviously, from people on the council, the committee, the sports authority, and good questions, and questions that should be asked. So I think you're going to see this continued accelerated push, but mid-April seems to be the new dates being kicked around, and that will be fairly telling, I think, on how this goes.
And lastly, before we hit one more break, and then we'll talk about the team, what about the TV? Because I've been hearing so many different questions and answers about where people can watch the team.
I thought Dennis Phillips Live was going to become the official carrier of all the games now.
Like, yeah, let's get this going.
So, look, this is frustrating. It's not necessarily logical. I understand why people are mad. The Rays are selling their new streaming package, Rays.tv. That's being done through MLB. FanDuel went away. They're under the MLB umbrella. There's like 9 or 10 other teams that also went there that were with FanDuel. That's for sale. You can buy that now for $100 for the full year. You can buy it for $19.99 a month. I think they put a 7-day free trial up today. But if you want to watch it the way you've been watching it, whether you have Spectrum or Frontier or whatever cable, or you have a satellite service, you have an internet service, MLB is waiting. They are negotiating these packages. It's going to be announced Thursday morning. That's the day of the regular season opener. Will you find out in time to watch the game? You will. But will you be uneasy in not knowing? And supposedly it's all going to be on the same tier. If you paid a certain price and the games on FanDuel were in your tier range, it's supposed to be the same thing. But there's rumors going around social media. People are saying they're calling Spectrum. They're being told there might be a bigger charge, things like that. So I don't know that part of it. I do know that it's going to be announced Thursday morning. Probably MLB sees this as a chance to sell more subscriptions for people that don't want to risk it, that don't want to wait. But if you've been watching it on cable, what I've been told by a number of people, both locally and with MLB, if you were watching it on a certain cable system in the past, you should be able to watch it on that same cable system going forward.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to hit one more break, and then we're going to quickly talk about the new faces and the ones that are no longer around. This is Marc Topkin with the Tampa Bay Times. Kyle Berger here on Dennis Phillips Live, back in our last 90 seconds. We are finally going to get to the team. So,
All right.
but I mean, these are questions I think that y'all know. I mean, they might be bigger questions than what's going on with the team.
My own wife, when I said I was going to go into our little home office here to do this show with you, she turned it on and said, "Oh, you can send in questions. Can I ask there about the TV?" I'm like, you do not ask. I've already explained it to you. And then I had another colleague text me who's also watching who said, "Are you going to talk about the TV or do I need to send in the question?" So it's a big question, and I understand why people aren't happy. And I mean, some people probably want to go to work Thursday and set their game to record, right? I mean, you want to go home and watch the game, and you don't know what to set it for. I get it. That's a frustrating thing, and I think this is MLB driving it. And I think if you wanted to be cynical about it, you'd say they're doing it this way to get more people to buy the online streaming that don't want to risk missing things.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, people are throwing out on our chat. They're saying what channels. One person saying 179 they found baseball on. So, you know, who knows?
I live out by St. Pete Beach, and on my TV Spectrum list 179, it says Rays baseball, but nothing else happens there. So
yeah,
I know that I talked to John Romano. He lives up in North Pinellas. He has Spectrum. He didn't have that channel. So it's probably different where you live in the county, too.
Okay. All right. We're back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, Dennis Phillips Live. Yeah, we finally are going to be able to talk about the team. A lot of questions about where you can watch the games, and with good reason. But Marc Topkin, so we got a lot of new faces. We've lost a lot of guys. What is the overall makeup of this team in your mind?
Yeah, it's a little different makeup now. I think, you know, they're trying to go. They've got the 3 really good offensive players in Caminero, Yandy Diaz, and Jonathan Aranda. They tried to bring in some veteran guys and a couple of younger guys that are here as well, but that are going to be more contact-oriented, put the ball in play, speed, kind of let those 3 guys, I think Neander has used the phrase, they're the 3 aircraft carriers. And then the other guys, you know, in theory, are getting on base, moving the ball. Chandler Simpson had a good spring. He's bunting a lot. I think you're going to see him do that more often. They added a couple veteran starting pitchers, Steven Matz and Nick Martinez. Nick with a bad spring. We found out today Ryan Pepio is going to open the year on the injured list. He's got a little bit of a hip inflammation thing, so scrambling on the rotation a little bit. The infield's interesting because it was supposed to be Taylor Walls at shortstop and Gavin Lux, one of the guys they brought in, traded Josh Lowe for him at second. They're both on the injured list now, and all in the last week this has happened. So Carson Williams, the number 1 prospect, people thought he was going to make the team. We kept writing during spring training, he's not. It's going to be Taylor Walls, and then Taylor Walls gets hurt, and lo and behold, it is going to be Carson Williams. So he should be exciting to watch. You know, struggled a lot last year. He was up the last 6 weeks. Has been, you know, adamant about how he learned from that, has made some adjustments. You've seen them this spring, or we've seen them this spring. So I think you're going to see a better player. Richie Palacios will end up at second. But look, Junior Caminero is the star of this team, right? He's the big name. What he did last season, what he did in the Dominican playoffs, the year before that, what he did in the WBC this year was amazing. I was fortunate enough to go down to Miami for the U.S. Dominican game, and the Dominicans lost, but the excitement that Junior Caminero generated for his team through that tournament, the respect he has from some of the biggest names, biggest Dominican players in baseball, the coaches, people like that is pretty remarkable. So he's the guy you're gonna pay to go see in a way. But some of those pitchers, and then the other big story is Shane McClanahan coming back, right? He hasn't pitched in a major league game since August 2nd, 2023. I mean, Kyle was a lot younger.
Didn't he go 5 innings?
Kyle was a lot younger then, right? Yeah, he's gone 5 innings in the spring training game, and he'll pitch game 5, which will be Saturday in Milwaukee, and then he'll pitch the home opener at the Trop, which is pretty cool. That should just add to that electric environment to see Shane McClanahan back on the mound.
What about the bullpen quickly? We have 45 seconds. We're going to continue on streaming, by the way, and continue on socials, but broadcast ends in 45. Quickly for the bullpen.
Pete Fairbanks is gone. The Rays let him go, didn't pick up his option. They're going to go with bullpen by committee. You're going to see Griffin Jacks, who was in the WBC, Garrett Clevenger, and Brian Baker. Then Edwin Uceta, who was probably maybe the most dynamic of those guys. He's injured to start the year, a little bit of a shoulder crankiness, should be back sometime in the end of the first month. And then you'll kind of see that. Look, Cash likes that mix and match thing. He prefers that to having one set guy. You can argue the merits of it either way, but he seems to think this group's going to work. So we'll see. It's going to take a lot to go right.
All right, guys, you can bring your questions on Facebook and streaming. Marc, thank you so much on broadcast. I appreciate it. And, folks, thanks for watching. If you have more questions, you can check us out on Facebook. And we are out. Well, we are still hot. Okay, we are good on streaming. So perfect. So we got that through perfectly. You timed that out. You nailed that. That was perfect. Thank you. You might have a career in this thing.
There you go. I'll stay to being anonymously more.
So, Kyle, what do you got? I mean,
as far as Junior Caminero, he's really making an effort to be the face of the franchise. He's 22 years old. He went ahead and learned English 22. On his own. How big is that to have him be the face when he already has the play to back it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great combination, and his willingness to want to be the face of the team and, take on the idea of learning English, doing his interviews in English. And he said it was to communicate, it wasn't really to communicate with us as much as to communicate with all of his teammates. But I'm not kidding, just talking to the Dominican players, the Dominican manager, the Dominican GM, what they talk about it, how he wants to learn. He kept asking people, show me how to do this, tell me how to do this, explain to me how to do this. So you get a guy who's 22, has had some success, but he really wants to make himself better. And I don't think you could ask for anything more than that. So, yeah, he is definitely their marquee player. And at some point, obviously, the question will be, are they going to be able to sign him long-term or not? But they've got him for this year and 4 more after this. So it's not something that has to be done anytime immediately.
Who would you consider might be one of the breakout players that people might not be on their radar, so to speak?
Ben Williamson. That was a guy they got from Seattle, the last trade kind of before the season started. And they told us he was a really good glove guy. He's a contact hitter. They were hoping he could show a little more. This guy had the best spring, I think, of anybody on the offensive side. Carson had a good spring, but I think Ben Williamson had the best spring. He hit some home runs. He's got a little bit of upper body strength. You could see it there. They think he's a Gold Glove caliber player at several positions. He played third for the Mariners last year, the first half of the year, then got sent down when they traded for a veteran at the deadline. But they're using him at short. They've used him at second. He'll probably be the start. Well, that kind of a guy, and maybe if he has anywhere near the career Ben Zobrist had, obviously they were be happy. But that comp was actually made already, Dennis, and. The fact he's also just seems like he's a great kid too, which adds to kind of the appeal of he's a really good kid. He works hard. He's happy to be traded here. He's getting a cool opportunity. So you'll probably see him, even though he's the utility infielder. I think he's going to play 5 or 6 days a week. It sounds like. I mean, Caminero will get a day off once in a while. He'll play third. Carson Williams will get a day off at short or 2 days off maybe in a week. He'll play there. When they face a lefty pitcher, it was going to be Gavin Lux. Now it's Richie Palacios, but the left-handed hitting second baseman won't play against a lefty pitcher. Ben Williamson will play second then. So I think you're going to see him play a lot. And if he continues to have the power as an additive feature to the good glove and the contact hitting and kind of a baseball, acumen, I think those are all really good signs.
How bad is the injury of Taylor Walls? I know it's oblique, right?
Oblique, they're saying 3-4 weeks at a minimum. It seems like just traditionally when guys have those, they end up being like 5 or 6 weeks. The coming back too soon and making it pop again is always the big fear. So, go with what they say, but I would think probably it ends up being a little bit longer than that. And, he's also such a guy. He's so athletic as a player. You've probably got to be super sure that, he can do all the things he typically does.
Yeah, he's one of the rare players I think out there that when you talk about him as his WAR or obviously for folks who don't follow the numbers on it, how many wins does him being in the game end up as a positive compared to someone who's maybe a negative, and his defense has always been his biggest draw. I mean, I don't know if the offense is. What are their expectations? Are there hopes with his offense to ever catch up with his defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Taylor Walls, the Rays' efforts have always been to try to get him to play more small ball, bunt more. You're fast, hit the ball the other way, hit the ball on the ground, drop a bunt down, be situational. And sometimes the problem is he has just enough power that he'll run into a home run once in a while, and then you see him kind of get a little long with the swing, and he's trying to do that again and keep doing that. It's like, no, stick to your game. So I think that's where they were headed. His second half last year was actually pretty good. I mean, not even just saying for him. I mean, it was a pretty good second half overall, and I think their hope was he was going to continue that going forward this season. But now, obviously, we won't know that until late April or sometime mid-May.
You got anything else?
Yeah, Jacob Melton was a good young talent that the Rays got in a trade this offseason. I know he didn't make the roster out of the start here, but What does he need to improve on? And will we see him eventually? Because he's got some power and some speed, and he's a good young outfielder.
Yeah, I think I'm sure we'll see him, Kyle. And I would think that as soon as there's an injury, he'll be the guy they turn to. He and Carson, in a way, were in that same boat of really, really good young players who've had success at AAA, but bringing them up and you can't bring them up and put them on the bench. They need to keep playing. They need the reps. So if they weren't going to be starting here, it's one of those, you don't want to hear it if you're the player, but like, this is what's best for you is go to AAA and play every day. Don't sit the bench up here. So I think when there's an injury, you'll see him. What he has to do better is make more contact. He is a big swing and miss guy, and he's got enough power and he's enough of a good defender that you might overlook some of that. But there's just a little too much swing and miss. They're trying to get him to make more contact and just find ways to get on base besides hitting the ball off the wall.
Well, Mark, I really appreciate your time. I know you got to finish packing. You got a long season ahead of you, and maybe if you get a chance, check in sometime. We'd love to have you on the show as the season goes on.
Yeah, we can do this again for sure. Yeah, we can do this. This was fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Safe travels, and we will be following you and your coverage starting on Thursday.
All right, sounds good. I'll check in with you someday on whether it's going to be a rainout or not.
You know my number.
All right.
Take care, Mark.
Sounds good, guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Yep.
All right, so that was fun. So that was Marc Topkin, Tampa Bay Times. Again, he's been, I mean, like you said, from the beginning,
from the start,
of the team, and usually has his finger on the pulse. And like any sports writer, like a beat writer, there's going to be some people that love his takes and other people that don't, and that's you're doing the job right because you're not going to make everybody happy. That's just kind of the nature of the beast.
He is in the locker room, the clubhouse every day, every road trip. So he knows what's going on. He has the pulse of the team.
Funny story. So when the All-Star game was in Miami many, many years ago, my oldest son, Brett, who's actually a doctor now in New Orleans, he wrote, maybe still does, but wrote for D-Rays Bay. It's a blog for the Rays. And over the years, they've given me, not the D-Rays Bay, like I had access to press passes and whatnot. Well, I didn't get credentials for that game. My son did, right? So we went down to Miami and covered the game. And I remember, so they had all of the reporters we were on the field, and they were opening up the gates, and all the players had their own little table, right? So we were all kind of like cattle in a stable waiting for the door to open, and Mark was right there, and everybody wanted to get Aaron Judge because it was his first year, right? So they opened up the stable, and I'm watching Mark like running to the table, and he's like pushing me and my son out of the way, and he got there first. And I'll never forget, because that's the first time I'd ever met Aaron Judge. The guy's a monster.
Huge, yeah.
He's like 6'7",
yeah.
270, 280, or whatever it was. Nice guy, really. And I'm not a Yankee lover, so for me to say that.
Well, then you see the picture of him with Altuve beside him. You've seen the picture of second base.
Yeah, because Altuve was like, what, 5'6" or something? Little guy. So we heard Mark's take. What is your take on how you think the team's looking this year?
Well, the team, like in years past, this team's going to have to rely on elite defense and elite pitching because I don't know if they have the bats. I mean, we mentioned the three, aircraft carriers that they have on the team, Caminero, Aranda, the two main guys, or two main big-time hitters. Like, you have to rely on both of them to drive in most of the runs. There's going to be a lot of small ball. You mentioned a lot of bunting with Chandler Simpson, a lot of base stealing. It's going to be small ball, typical Rays baseball. Gold glove fielding with guys like Taylor Walls. And then pitching, which you need Shane McClanahan.
Pitching and defense.
You already lost Ryan Pepio for hopefully not very long. He's supposed to have a breakout season this year. But, that's the way they're going to have to win. And they played like that for the first part of the year last year until it got to the summer months when it got hot and they had all these road games, and that's when they kind of went downhill. But now that they're back in the Trop, it's a more pitcher-friendly ballpark, and that kind of suits what this team does best.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I've always made the argument, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I lost. I'm gonna be honest. When they traded Longo, I had season tickets up until then. And I let my season tickets go because this is just my opinion, I think you need one or two of those, like a Derek Jeter, with the Yankees. There's, when you're building a fan, it's just my opinion, again, but when you're building a fan base, the wins and losses are really important, and I get it from the manager's perspective and the GM's perspective. It's everything. Wins and losses are everything. But from a fan's perspective, I think sometimes you need that one or two player, that face of that team. Even if it doesn't translate necessarily to wins, I think you've got to build the loyalty from your fan base with those players. And that's always been my issue with the Rays. And I know why they do what they do, because they can't afford a lot of these big name players to keep them for a long time. But they signed Junior.
Yeah.
They've got him for, 4 years. And then obviously, it did not work out previously, prior to. With the Rays and their long-term contracts.
You can bring up that topic related to our other teams. I mean, Stamkos, another example, and then 2 weeks ago, Mike Evans. I mean,
yeah, that was an interesting one, because Mike Evans
he took a lot less money to leave.
And you can make the discussion, why did he do that? And that is something that is, there's been some people out there, and I mean, let's be honest, the offensive minds of the Niners playing with McCaffrey and
Shanahan.
Shanahan. I mean, there's a draw there, and I think I don't know if this is true or not, but I think in his mind, he felt that he had a better chance to win a ring with the Niners than he would with the Bucs. I believe that's the way that it played out. But with the Rays, it is interesting, because I've always felt like, and keeping that one player, and I know they always say it's not the name on the back, it's the name on the front. In my opinion, sometimes it's the name on the back too, and that's just my take. And like I said, when they traded away Longo, that was a devastating moment. I still have a dog named Longo. That was a devastating moment for me as a fan. And you know what? We talk on these shows and whatnot. We're fans.
Yeah. I grew up in Atlanta. I'm a diehard Braves fan. So Chipper Jones is my guy. He stayed there the entire
Forever.
time.
Yeah. And I think there are times where the Rays, I don't know if they've lost sight of it, or they were just unable to sign the players, or they didn't have the money. And I get it. Those are the things with a smaller market team. I always say that Tampa's not a small market. No. We're a top 15 TV market in the country, and they make a lot of money on broadcast revenue and whatnot. But we're not the New Yorks, we're not the LAs. And what an irony that was, that our GM in Tampa, who had to play small ball and had to do money ball, ended up going to the Dodgers, and now has an open checkbook and can get whoever he wants when he wants. So he's gone from one extreme to the other. But I always felt like it's fun to watch this team if you appreciate the subtleties of the game and the way that Joe Madden
the thinking part of the game, that Kevin Cash, he's always making moves. Like, he's got to stay one step ahead. What pitches are coming next? The switch hitting, and it's everything. Like, he's got a lot going on in his head about what's happening. It's like a chess game. And
you do appreciate that. If you're a true baseball fan of the game, not even necessarily of the team, of the game, I think you can appreciate what they do and how they do it. Absolutely. Because, as Mark said, I mean, they had made the playoffs 5 straight years with a roster that most people couldn't name 2 players on that team.
Yeah, I want to say in the last decade, they have the 3rd most wins of any franchise, behind the Yankees and Dodgers.
Yeah. So, I mean, they find a way to win. But I still make the argument from a fan perspective, you got to keep one of those players. And Longo, for me, was that guy. And Junior is probably that guy now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's going to command, in however many years it is, he's going to command insane money to stay. And hopefully they will believe that, or they'll be able to offer that.
Yeah, like as Mark was saying, once they build the stadium and they build all the stuff around the stadium, kind of like the Battery in Atlanta, that's going to bring in more revenue, they can bring in some high-priced talent.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's when we'll see the next big free agents. When that's still years down the road.
And everybody complained about Stu, not spending the money. And prior to that, by the way, everybody complained about Vince. Vince DeMoli, same thing. He didn't want to spend money. Stu didn't want to spend money. So we will see if this ownership group is any different. But I think, as Mark also said, and as you were talking about, the biggest concern was the stadium. Yeah. I mean, it absolutely was and still is. So I think once they get that done, if they get it done, seems like they will. I mean, it sounds like it's going to
One of the encouraging things with me with this ownership, like Zalupski, Cosgrove, and Ken Babby, they're all on social media asking fans what they want. And like they're holding these town hall meetings about what they want with the stadium, how they want to operate the team. They're even putting out like voting polls about what kind of jerseys do you want to see. Like they're going to put Tampa Bay back on the jersey, which they haven't done in years, on the road jersey. So they're asking fans, like, what do you want? Or what do you want to look like?
But the cynic in me says, yeah, they ask, but are they really going to do it? I mean, and not with the Rays per se, but that's just my mindset in general with, with management. Sometimes they have their own idea of what they're going to do, and they might make it sound like they're interested, but ultimately they're going to do what they're going to do. And hopefully this group will spend some money. I think everybody agrees with that. Look, we've gone through this team through thick and thin. I mean, 2008 was one of the greatest years of my life when they made it to the series. And it was such an amazing year. And I've never been more wrong when I thought that the next year, after we made the World Series in 2008, I'm thinking, all right, the fans are going to start showing up now, because that was always, up until then, we never had a winning team. Well, all of a sudden we had a magical season, and I just thought the next year people were going to fill the Trop, and they just never did. They never did. So we'll see if the new location, and what was always the big thing? What did they always say why they didn't go?
Driving over the bridge to St. Pete.
Yep. Yeah. So now we'll see. I mean, I remember, this is before you were here. I don't know, it was before you were born. No, it was before you were here, though. But way back when Rick Scott became governor, the very first year that he was governor, they were going to build a bullet train from Orlando to Tampa. And there was a lot of talk that they were going to build a stadium right there on that line, which meant it would be a 30-minute train ride from Orlando to Tampa. And just like you take the train in New York or wherever else where when you're going to the game. That, in my opinion, would have solved all attendance issues, because if you can get on a train in Orlando and in 30 minutes you're at a major league game, people are going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And it never happened. And I think it set them back. And why it happened, that's political. And I'm not going to ban myself. We don't talk politics, but it never happened for a number of reasons. And I always thought, you get a train, you get a mass transit on that, and you have that stadium on that line, that would solve. But we don't have that here. And probably a long time until we're going to have mass transit that you could take a train into a stadium. But boy, that to me would solve everything. So anyway, that's about it. We definitely, we will be talking more Rays baseball. I know football season's just ended, but you hearing anything going on upcoming with the Bucks? I mean,
the big thing today was Levante David announced his retirement. They signed another linebacker yesterday. Other than that, the draft is coming up. So they got the 15th pick. Probably get another defensive player, you would think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was thinking, there was a rumor. So who'd they just pick up? They pick up Gainwell?
Running back.
Kenneth Gainwell,
yeah.
right.
I like that pickup a lot.
That's an interesting one, because he was always kind of a third down back, with the Steelers.
He caught 70 passes last year with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and with the Eagles prior to that. So at the very least, a little bit of depth at running back. But, now without Mike Evans, you've still got, obviously,
Ibuka, Godwin.
And if Godwin can stay healthy. And look, I'm a Penn Stater, and Chris Godwin's a Penn Stater. He's my boy. But he's had a lot of injury issues, and he's getting up there now.
Yeah.
So, you wonder if, I think they re-signed Kate Otten. And I don't know. But anyway, we like talking sports. We're going to sit here and talk forever. So, hey, you know what? Quickly, let's go back and check radar one more time, just since few people are interested. There is the 7-day. And tomorrow, I do think we're getting a little bit better chance of some showers. We've had some rain out there over the last few hours, and it is still out there. There's a live look right now. You can see moving in from eastern Hillsborough County, western Polk County, and now into Highlands County. Go ahead and show you the last 1 hour. Put it in motion here and kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. Here we go, right here. And that's where everything's kind of moving east, southeast, and even a little bit more of a southerly direction over the last couple of minutes. And that'll linger for another hour or two, and then things will wind down. So, Kyle, thank you very much for coming, for stopping by. Thursday, you're going to be over?
I'll be there starting at 4 o'clock. You'll be there, Thunder Alley.
Yep.
Previewing the Lightning game.
Yeah, that's.
Are you doing DPL in Thunder Alley?
I am doing DPL Thunder Alley. So are you going to be? You're going to be watching the game, I'm assuming.
I can come out.
Yeah, come on out.
I'll be out there.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's Thursday night. And Friday, I'm going to be live in Clearwater, supposedly, allegedly, if we get our staffing set up, with the Sugar's Hand Festival, which is actually a really cool thing.
I want to go to that at some point.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see what they do. So thanks for stopping by. We'll be back tomorrow night on our next edition of Dennis Phillips Live. You guys have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow.